What if the single greatest leap in understanding the animal mind happened entirely by accident? In the 1980s, at Georgia State University's Language Research Center, a team of scientists led by Dr. Savage-Rumbaugh was trying to teach a bonobo named Matata a special symbolic language. Day after day, they pointed to geometric symbols called lexigrams, each representing a word, hoping she'd grasp the connection. The work was slow, frustrating, and breakthroughs were rare. But all that time, they were being watched. Clinging to his mother was her young infant son, Kanzi, who was there for every single lesson. He wasn't supposed to be the student. No one was trying to teach him. He was just there. And with the quiet, focused attention you might see in a human child, he was absorbing everything. What Kanzi did next wouldn't just surprise the researchers. It would shatter long-held beliefs about the line between human and animal intelligence, and force us to ask a profound question. What truly is language? The mission to communicate with our closest living relatives, the great apes, is a scientific journey filled with both huge promise and heated controversy. For decades, researchers tried to teach chimpanzees to speak, but their vocal cords just aren't built for human sounds. Others tried American Sign Language, which led to more promising, but still debated, results. By the time Dr. Savage-Rumbaugh started her work, the focus had shifted to a new tool, the lexigram keyboard. This was a board covered in abstract symbols for words like apple, play, or chase. The hope was to bypass the limits of speech and tap directly into the ape's cognitive potential. The star student was supposed to be Matata, Kanzi's adoptive mother. But Matata just wasn't getting it. The abstract link between a symbol and an object didn't seem to click. Researchers would hold up a banana, point to its lexigram, and repeat the process endlessly, but Matata showed little interest. The project seemed to be hitting a familiar wall. Then, one day, Matata was temporarily removed from the area. Kanzi, just a toddler, was alone with the researchers. And he did something no one saw coming. He started using the keyboard, with a confidence that was shocking for his complete lack of formal training. He began touching the lexigrams, not randomly, but with clear intent. He was asking for snacks and games, communicating with the exact tool his mother had failed to master. The researchers were stunned. Kanzi had never been taught. He had simply learned through observation and immersion, almost exactly like a human child learns their first language. The experiment had failed with its intended subject, but in that failure, it had accidentally succeeded beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The revelation that Kanzi had been learning all along changed everything. The team immediately shifted its focus, expanding his keyboard and speaking to him constantly, creating a language-rich environment. Kanzi's vocabulary exploded. He eventually came to use between 300 and 400 lexigrams to express a startling range of thoughts. This was way more than simple mimicry. He was creating his own messages. He'd ask for his favorite foods, like bananas and grapes. He'd start games by pointing to the symbols for chase or hide. His communication was often simple, like that of a 2-year-old human, but it was effective and sometimes incredibly creative. For example, when he wanted to watch his favorite movie, Quest for Fire, he found there was no lexigram for it, so he improvised. He pointed to the symbol for fire, and then the symbol for TV. This creative combination of existing symbols to make a new, complex idea was a breathtaking display of symbolic thinking. He could use the symbol for strawberry in multiple ways. It could mean "I want a strawberry," but it could also be a request to go to the strawberry patch, or just his way of identifying the fruit. The context, just like with human language, was everything. The scientists realized they weren't just watching an ape who could memorize symbols. They were talking with an individual who could use those symbols flexibly to get what he needed, express his desires, and even share his interests. Kanzi wasn't just using a language, he was thinking in it. As researchers sifted through Kanzi's flood of communication, they noticed something even more profound. Hidden in his stream of symbols were the faint but unmistakable signs of grammar. He wasn't just throwing words together randomly, he was starting to follow rules. And the most remarkable part? Some of these rules were his own invention. Early on, when Kanzi combined two symbols, the order didn't matter. He might say hide peanut one moment and peanut hide the next. But over time, a pattern emerged. He developed his own personal syntax, consistently placing the action word before the object, like hide peanut. He had developed a basic verb-noun-word order. What made this so incredible was that no one had explicitly taught him this. It was a rule he seemed to have created on his own, a spontaneous ordering of his world through language. He also started combining lexigram use with gestures in a structured way, often pressing the symbol before pointing, adding another layer of grammatical consistency. These self-imposed rules were strong evidence that Kanzi wasn't just performing a complex trick. He was internalizing the pieces of language and putting them together in a logical way. This discovery challenged what some scientists called the Maginot Line, the supposedly impenetrable barrier separating human language from all other animal communication. Kanzi, it seemed, had just crossed it, suggesting the capacity for grammar might not be an exclusively human trait after all. Kanzi's ability to produce language was revolutionary, but the next phase of research uncovered a skill that was, in some ways, even more stunning: his understanding of spoken English. While Kanzi couldn't speak like a human, his ability to understand was deep. Researchers estimated that over his lifetime, he came to understand around 3,000 English words. To prove this wasn't just him responding to subtle cues, the scientists designed incredibly strict tests. In these experiments, the person giving Kanzi a command would often be hidden behind a one-way mirror or wear a welder's mask to hide their facial expressions. Sometimes Kanzi would listen to the words through headphones, completely removing any chance of visual prompts. The commands were often new and strange, making sure he wasn't just responding from memory. He was asked to do things like put the pine needles in the refrigerator or take the vacuum cleaner outdoors. The most famous study came in 1993, when Kanzi's abilities were formally compared to those of a 2-year-old human child named Aaliyah. Both were given 660 novel spoken instructions. The results were mind-boggling. Aaliyah, the toddler, responded correctly 65% of the time. Kanzi responded correctly to 74% of the commands. An ape had outperformed a human child in a language comprehension task. The study even included reversible sentences like, put the rock in the water, versus put the water on the rock. Kanzi's ability to get these right showed he understood English syntax, and that word order was critical, one of the most powerful pieces of evidence that a non-human animal could genuinely understand complex human language. Kanzi's genius wasn't just limited to language. His intelligence spilled over into another area once thought to be exclusively human: sophisticated tool-making. While some animals use simple tools, Kanzi showed he could manufacture them, creating sharp stone flakes in a way that looked a lot like our early human ancestors. In controlled experiments, Kanzi was taught how to strike one stone against another, a technique called flint knapping, to create a sharp flake. He quickly mastered this and used the flakes he made to solve problems, like cutting a rope to open a box with a food reward inside. This skill alone put him in a class far beyond most other animals. But just like with language, Kanzi didn't just learn, he innovated. Researchers had taught him to hold the core stone in his hand while striking it. But Kanzi developed his own, more efficient method. He would throw the core onto a hard surface to break it, a technique he was never shown. This innovation showed a deep understanding of the physics involved and a goal-oriented approach that went beyond simple imitation. Even more impressively, he was seen teaching this skill to his sister Panbanisha. She, in turn, began to copy his actions without any human intervention. This passing of a learned, technical skill from one individual to another is a basic form of culture, a cornerstone of human advancement. From understanding sentences to crafting tools, Kanzi was blurring the lines we've drawn to separate ourselves from the rest of the animal kingdom. As of early 2026, Kanzi is still alive and well, living at the Ape Initiative in Des Moines, Iowa. His life's work provides one of the strongest cases yet that apes possess many of the cognitive foundations for language. He demonstrated symbol use, creativity, comprehension of spoken words, and even the creation of grammatical rules. Of course, his abilities have sparked intense scientific debate. Critics argue his skills are the result of a unique, human-rich upbringing, a phenomenon called enculturation, and not what bonobos in the wild can do. They question if he truly understands language or is just performing a highly sophisticated form of pattern recognition. But even with these debates, his documented achievements are undeniable. In recent years, researchers have even published findings suggesting Kanzi can engage in pretend play. In experiments conducted in 2024, when an experimenter pretended to pour imaginary juice into a cup, Kanzi could track which cup held the juice. He could tell the difference between a real object and an imaginary one, choosing real juice over pretend juice when offered both. This ability to imagine something that isn't physically there was long considered exclusive to humans. Kanzi suggests its roots might go back millions of years to a common ancestor we share with the apes. The story of Kanzi forces us to confront what we thought we knew about intelligence, language, and consciousness. He is living proof that the artificial boundaries we draw between human and animal are far blurrier than we ever imagined. What other discoveries are waiting in the minds of the animals we share this planet with? If you've been moved by this story, consider supporting organizations dedicated to the conservation and study of great apes, like the Ape Initiative where Kanzi lives. His life is a testament to the idea that if we only take the time to listen, we might just find we aren't as alone as we think.